Hello, it's December. These are Christmas lights. Just wanted to show these off. I wanted to wait to do some research and try and find out exactly what brand these were and exactly when I bought them, but the internet's been a complete waste of time trying to find info on these. These are the earliest LED lights that I've ever seen. I believe I bought these. I checked with a friend of mine who bought the same set, and we seem to think somewhere between 97 and 1999. And I remember when I bought these, blue LEDs were not a thing available. They weren't really used in devices. You definitely couldn't get them in Christmas lights. Blue and white was a very new thing, if it was even a thing. So these lights, you could buy them red and green, or what I bought and subsequently regretted, red, green, yellow. In my opinion, if you're going to add yellow, you have to add blue, because yellow is not a very Christmassy color. Blue kind of cancels it out, but red and green is nice. That said, there's really nothing too nice about these. Let me plug these in. Turn the lights off here. So these are, I'm looking at them, and they're about as bright as if you ever used old computers, those old beige custom computer towers, these LEDs are right from there. You have your power LED, your hard drive LED, and your turbo LED. They are half wave rectified. There's a trick with LEDs that don't have full wave rectification. If you kind of shake them in front of your face, you'll see the flicker. The camera probably won't pick that up if I shake like that now. But what I'm seeing right now is just a strobing effect. So they're half wave rectified in that they are not rectified. They're LEDs. They're just sort of rectifying themselves. And yeah, these, I believe, and I'm just going to go on a limb and say that these are probably one of the first sets of LED Christmas lights. They're not good, but they were a new concept when I bought them. I believe I bought them from Walmart. Every year I used to look and see what new Christmas lights they had, and saw these, and they were like 3 times the price of a standard set of mini lights, incandescent mini lights. And oh, LED, wow, that's cool. They use like no power, and they really use no power at all. I mean, now that's not very impressive, but in the 90s that was pretty cool. The downside is you really had to have all your ambient light turned off to even see them. Like here, let me turn off the lights around here. All right, we're now in the dark. The video's probably gone all grainy, and the color looks a little washed out in the video. The red looks almost pink. In real life, this red is a very, very pure LED red. Let's see if I can turn that down. No, it's still kind of pink. The green is kind of almost like a bright lime green. And this yellow is almost like a muddy orange, like a gold color. So for comparison in terms of reliability, this string I bought, I do remember it was the early 2000s, so probably like 2001. This is a blue LED string. Early blue LED. These are outdoor grade. One thing I remember noticing is these would be considered indoor-outdoor in the US, but only indoor in Canada. Outdoor in Canada has much thicker insulation that I believe can handle the really low temperatures that we tend to get here. But what's interesting is, like, what about Alaska? What about North Dakota? I don't know. Side tangent. So I bought these to try and add blue to those. And anyone who's experienced early LED Christmas lights knows that the blues were always overpowering, and there's no exception here. That's awful. And the other thing about this blue set is I had LEDs burning out. And it came with spares, but I stopped using it after I used up all the spares, and I still had them burning out. So these early blue LEDs, I don't know if they were just driven too hard. Like they didn't calculate the voltage drop with any sort of leeway. I don't know. But yeah, I am of the opinion, yeah, back then not as much as I am now, that blue LED is horribly tacky. It needs to be used very seldom and very tastefully. Otherwise, it's just this gaudy light show of obnoxious blue in my face. It's a very subjective opinion. I stand by it. And just to get an idea of the wattage consumption, I have these plugged into a kilowatt. And you are looking at, let's get a nice clean, 1.6 watts. I think even by modern LED lights, that is low. So these use about as much power as a standby power supply in a cheap Chinese piece of AV equipment. And just for comparison, the blue LEDs are actually even lower. I thought they would be higher. There is less bulbs, so I think that contributes to it. But again, in the late 90s and then these in the early 2000s, that was a very, very low power consumption. When you're paying huge electricity costs for your Christmas lighting, because we used to just go overboard and, use as many lights as we could until we tripped the breaker, that costs a lot of money. So the idea of paying less, a lot of people jumped on these, even though the early LEDs, and even still a lot of them nowadays, in my opinion, look like shit. People still jumped on them because the cost savings are just so high. For comparison, here's a set of 50 incandescent mini lights, your standard multicolored set. Unfortunately, with the later added purple, don't get me started on purple and orange, shouldn't be on Christmas lights, but regardless, standard set of 50 incandescent mini lights. And these are churning out about 17.7 watts once they've fully heated up. Seem to be going down a bit. Started out at like 18.4. So you're looking at, over 15 times the power consumption of those, which when you start multiplying it into multiple strings, no one puts 50 mini lights on their Christmas tree. If you're like me, you put like 300, 400. You put a shitload, so it adds up. Alright, so I pulled one of the bulbs out, and as you can see, it's a fairly standard mini light socket. It is keyed though. Take a look on the bottom here, you see it's like a half moon. It's round on that edge and flat on that edge. And of course that's because these are polarized, they're LEDs, they only go one way. I think this probably did come with replacements and I've just lost them over the years. And of course these are all in series together. So the voltage drop is over the number of lights. How many lights are there in here? I haven't really counted. Yeah, so I just went and counted them and there are 60. And I don't remember 60 being a very common number for incandescent mini lights. I think they were always like 25 and 50, maybe 30 or 35. And then of course 100 and 75. These being 60 is of course a product of the voltage drop. They're all in series, so it works out, assuming a perfect 120 volts to 2 volts per bulb. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of show this set. I wish I knew more about them. I feel like anyone who did buy these probably got rid of them after the first year they bought them, just because as Christmas lights go, they suck. They really suck. Like I remember putting these up and you could barely tell they were even lit. You just saw like a little tiny shimmer. This camera is really compensating for how bad they are. But it's cool. I mean, over 20 years ago, LED Christmas lights. I plan to do a few more videos on Christmas lights because it's December and Christmas lights are awesome. I got some I think they're 1940s series string Christmas lights that are kind of cool.